Before we descend into the rich layers of today's episode, I want to share something that's been emerging in my one-on-one threshold counseling work. Over the years, I've noticed that most people come to me at significant moments of transition, what I call thresholds, when something is ending, unraveling, emerging, transforming, and often all of that at once. And yet there's so often a lack of depth of understanding around how to move through these essential experiences. That absence, I've come to recognize, is part of the inheritance of these strange times, a kind of amnesia. And yet it is always paired with a heartfelt, mysterious, and powerful call toward greater presence, passion, depth, meaning, and soul. I truly trust the intelligence of it all. Over time, I came to see that many who come to me for professional companionship during these pivotal moments in their life are longing for a more directional and mythic container, an intentional, semi-structured journey to support their approach to the threshold that is beckoning them, and to strengthen their capacity to truly listen, lean in, and move through these passages in a heartfelt and soulful way. Out of that realization, I've been developing a new offering that I am calling Soul Compass Spiral, a mythically rooted, psycho-spiritually grounded journey through 5 phases, each aligned with a cardinal direction on the compass, including the center. Along the way, we explore vital questions like, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? We connect with developmental stages, soma, ancestry, elemental forces, more than human kin, and so much more. This spiral journey is not about fixing, forcing, or striving. It's not about arrivals. It's about learning to feel more fully and listen more deeply, to perceive more broadly, reflect more richly, and follow the sacred threads of longing, loss, becoming, and belonging through a supported process that is creative, embodied, humble, and honest. Right now, I have 4 folks walking this spiral with me as I refine and shape it. And I'm opening space for 1 more. Because this is a co-creative process helping me develop something I'll later offer more widely, I'm offering a significant discount for those who step in now. So, if something in this speaks to you at all, if you are standing at a threshold and seeking a different kind of compass to help you orient, I'd love to connect. Maybe you're that 5th person to help me develop this rich offering. Reach out. Let's set up a free insight call. Also, a quick note. My most recent piece on Substack, Beyond Growth and Progress, 14 Shifts in Orientation to Live and Heal More Deeply, received quite a bit more attention than usual. I think that's because it touches a vital nerve for many of us who are aching for a more rooted and relational way of moving through the world. The piece weaves together some of my own journey through and beyond mainstream psychology with the beautifully articulated work of Gabrielle Feather, who contributed 8 of the 14 shifts featured in the piece. It's been deeply heartening to see how many of you are resonating with this invitation to unlearn the trance of endless growth and progress and instead reorient towards something more wholehearted and life-giving. If you haven't read the piece yet, I'd love for you to take a look and let me know which shifts are already taking root in you and which ones are exciting to consider taking on with more intention. And if the piece speaks to you, consider becoming an early subscriber. There's so much more to come in this space that is hearth woven. You can find a link in the show notes. And if you haven't already, I also want to warmly invite you to subscribe to Wild Heart Revival on your favorite podcast platform and to join us on YouTube for the visual side of the project. Your presence, ratings, comments, shares truly nurture this humble offering's ongoing organic growth. Thank you for being here. Now, let's turn toward today's conversation. Welcome to Wild Heart Revival, a gathering place for heartfelt conversations and stories as pathways of renewal and revival. I'm your host, Tay Tayari, and today's guest is David Bedrick. In this compassionate conversation, David invites us to see shame and suffering not as flaws to fix, but as doorways into deeper understanding. Drawing from decades of intimate therapeutic work, he illuminates how healing begins when we recognize and honor the intelligence within even our most difficult experiences. Together we explore the courage it takes to slow down amid the myriad pressures of modernity, to loosen the grip of survival strategies, and to allow parts of ourselves to fall apart, inviting a kind of beautiful ruination that makes space for true care and soulful transformation. At the heart of this conversation is a call to unshame ourselves and each other through presence, curiosity, and compassion, rooted in a deep recognition of life's wild and woven wisdom. David Bedrick is a teacher, counselor, and attorney. He grew up in a family marked by violence. While his father's brutality was physical and verbal, his mother's denial and gaslighting had its own covert power. This formative context introduced David early to the etiology of shame and instilled an urge to unshame. Professionally, he was on the faculty for the University of Phoenix and the Process Work Institute in the US and Poland, and is the founder of the Santa Fe Institute for Shame-Based Studies, where he trains therapists, coaches, and healers, and offers workshops for individuals to further their own personal development. David writes for Psychology Today and is the author of 4 books: Talking Back to Dr. Phil, Alternatives to Mainstream Psychology; Revisioning Activism, Bringing Depth, Dialogue, and Diversity to Individual and Social Change; You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover, 17 Women's Stories of Hunger, Body, Shame, and Redemption; and his newest book, The Unshaming Way, which was published by North Atlantic Books in November 2024. All right, let's nurture curiosity and compassion. Let's nourish our hearts and listen for the deeper stirrings of soul beneath the surface of things with our wonderful guest for today, David Bedrick. You say that shame not only leads you to hide from other people, shame leads you to hide from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Shame disconnects you from your experience. It disconnects you from your true self.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can totally feel that deep in my bones when I look at my life and feel into my life and the lives of my clients that I've been blessed to get to know. And when I look out at the world and the scenario that's unfolding right now, and different countries especially right now in the, West Asia or the Middle East, we'll call it. I just feel like that quote is so, and the idea infused through it is so vitally important to unpack and talk about, because my sense is that shame is really one of the fundamental forces that is propelling this perpetual violence in our world. Violence towards self first and foremost, and then toward the so-called other. So I don't have a question, just that quote and this kind of preamble, and I just want to pass it over to you and see what stirs for you.
Yeah. One of the reasons I wanted to say that shame hides us from ourselves is because if you read the shame literature or get to know the way generally people think, shame is described as this awful, painful, difficult, agonizing feeling. You just saw that my naked body, or you saw that what I said to someone I thought no one would know. I'm so humiliated. I can't stand. I want to hide from you. I wish you never saw it. So people tell those stories in the shame literature, and then people get it. Well, I know what that's like. But most shame is not like that. Most shame is totally unconscious and just, as you're saying, as I said, disconnecting people from themselves. So they're not thinking, I'm having this awful experience. And you're talking about the Middle East. So for instance, when a person gets hurt, they can start identifying themselves as a hurt person. I'm a Jewish person. I've been hurt in my life. I grew up in a violent home. I have a Jewish transgenerational history. I know something about what it's like to be hurt and frightened. So when that experience comes in, I get locked into feeling like, oh, the world's scary. I had a father who was violent. I'm a smaller person relative to that father when I'm young. But a part of me still, I'm almost 7 years old, is still small. I'm not thinking that's bad. It's perfect. And there's a part of me that, from my transgenerational history, the world is bigger and could kill me and wipe me out. But I'm not only that. I'm also a teacher. I'm also more or less white and male in the United States, have a certain amount of power. I more or less have a certain amount of money. I have a pretty good voice. I'm pretty articulate. I was a lawyer for a while. I know how to debate. I'm not only a small person. I don't mean small in the negative way. I'm tender and compassionate, and you can hurt me. That's good to know. It's not something to overcome. But I'm not only that. I'm also a powerful person who could hurt other people and have and do as a human being, as a male, as a Jewish person. So what happens then with this sense of I'm a powerful person who could hurt people? Totally hidden from me. I don't know that. I'm just a small person who could get hurt. You're trying to hurt me. So what happens with that? It's split off somewhere, that particular power. That's not okay. That's not right. I'm not really like that. If my power comes up, I think, why am I like this? I shouldn't be upset. All the things connected to my ability to embody and express my power is put away, and shame holds that tightly away from me. So I'm not walking around thinking, I'm so upset that I can't contact my power. I'm just walking around in a world feeling small relative to a bigger world, not knowing I'm hurt. Hurt also gets shamed. I'm not hurt, I'm fine. I could genuinely believe that. There's many times I'm feeling hurt, and I genuinely believe I'm not. Unless you said, take a moment and, no, it's fine. Take a moment and see what just happened. Looks like that startled you. Oh, wow. I guess I really did get hurt. So I could split off my hurt easily. Where does it go? I don't want to be vulnerable. It's not good to be weak. I'm a man. I should be strong. Shame puts that away. Shame puts my power away. That's not you. You're a smaller person. And now I walk around in the world hurt and not knowing it, and powerful and not knowing it. That's really dangerous. It means I'm going to get hurt and be with people who could hurt me and think it's fine. And then when I get hurt, what will I do? Why did I do that? What's happening wrong? I'll just think I'm a screwed up person. I won't think, hey, Terry, that didn't feel so good. I won't think that. I'll think I'm a screwed up person. And then, of course, when people say you're hurtful, I'll say that's not true. People are trying to hurt me. Does it make sense? That's my connection. I'm skirting around the Jewish and Middle East issue because I'm shy about it in public.
Yeah.
But I should say my opinion directly, even though I haven't probably almost anywhere. Part of the Jewish trauma is to get locked into the sense of I've been hurt and victimized and the world is dangerous. It is. I have been. It is dangerous. It's still dangerous. But if I'm not aware that I have also capacity to hurt people, I'm also bigger than certain people as a group, as a nation, that gets dangerous. Anyway, that's my
Yeah.
shame analysis of that particular situation.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot for voicing that, David.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is my sense that so much of the shame that lives inside folks is unknown.
Yeah.
And so in that way, it's a shadow of sorts, and in that way, then it is perpetuating certain behaviors or patterns of behavior without, like, I'll just speak for myself. Like, I know I've perpetuated behaviors and patterns of behavior through this kind of backdoor shadow avenue of the shame living within me,
Mhm.
that I guess I hadn't at those times taken the sincere time and dedication and devotion to investigating with care
Mhm.
and compassion and love.
Mhm.
A, because of like illiteracy around what shame is.
Mhm.
B, I think because of maybe even a more topical shame. Do you get what I mean by that? Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and then C, because of probably unconscious and conscious fear of
Yeah.
what it would take to really meet that shame within myself.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah, so much is. I'm thinking of uh, a woman that I worked with, and she came to me saying, I screwed up. I went to this party and I had a couple of drinks and I started talking so much. And then people were there and they were listening to me. And I'm like, I took up so much space and and I really shouldn't have done that. And I'm so embarrassed about that. And oh my gosh, I should apologize to people for talking so much. So in that situation, that's a person that I know because I work with them, has a lot of to say. That's a really intelligent person who has a lot of strong opinions that are worth hearing. What happens to her strong opinions? She thinks she makes a mistake by speaking and taking up space. She doesn't think, I'm an intelligent person, I have a lot to say. So what's happening to her intelligence? That's a positive quality. It's hidden in shame. That my intelligence comes out. I'm taking up space. I shouldn't be doing that. Why am I listening to other people? Why aren't I, etc. Why am I so strong opinion? How come I can't be mellower? That's a whole understanding she has of her intelligence and her brilliance, right? It's like, no, 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 that's beautiful. So even something like a positive quality, quote unquote, like her intelligence can be put there, and all kinds of things. Hungers for life of all kinds. Our hunger to be vital, to feel alive, to feel tender, to feel compassionate, to feel powerful, to feel sweet, to feel beautiful. Very few of those things come out directly. So many people don't feel beautiful and aren't thinking, I want to feel beautiful in my life. Some people have that, but they may not ever say that directly. They'll do things about that, right? So then what happens with that desire to feel beautiful, which is great, which is beautiful, natural. Nature wants to
Mm-hmm.
be beautiful and have my eyes see it. The flowers say, can you see my beauty? And I say, yes. So people have that. But if I'm not free to do that, then I have to hide that in some way. I have to shrink that in some way. I have to put myself down in some way. I have to think I shouldn't adorn myself in some way. I have to do various things. So then a quality like my hunger to be beautiful and express my beauty lives in shame territory. I might not know that. I might just think, well, that's egotistical, that's narcissism, or I'm just full of myself, or how come I can't just feel good without being that way? So then the whole quality, something as simple as feeling beautiful, which everyone is and has a right to feel, most of that lives under shame. So people hide their beauty. because they think expressing it is whatever, self-indulgent or egotistical, or there's nothing ego about showing beauty. There's nothing to do with ego, but people don't know that, and but shame defines it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And when the shame is kind of suffocating or choking out that natural tendency to emanate beauty, then it actually maybe is morphing, shaping, and changing the way in which you're expressing your beauty,
Totally.
and coming out in a way that probably doesn't resonate at a deep level. And so then it does make you feel those other things.
Yeah. That's a good word, right? Once shame's operating, as you said, it's the quality, beauty or intelligence, or your hurting, your pain, then lives in the shadow. And that doesn't mean it doesn't express. That means it finds ways of expressing that you're less aware of. That means nighttime dreams for sure. That means your emotions. That means your body in its soma and its physical symptoms and things like that. And that means other kinds of tendencies. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to do that. Addictive tendencies. It's these things are these hunkers are natural. They're powerful. So with all the things we can try to put against it, I did I was filmed on a documentary on eating disorders, and they had me work with certain people on camera. And one woman I worked with, she only ate, I think it was 5 different foods. Been hospitalized because she's not nourishing herself, and so it's a serious problem and needs to be taken seriously, and her health needs to be taken seriously, etc.
Yeah.
But she lives in a world that says, "What's wrong with you? We have to fix you. 5 different foods. That's not okay." And decades therapy in hospitals, and she's still doing that. And I was the first and only person who ever said to her, "That's fascinating." Can you hear my energy?
Yeah.
And I'm genuinely meaning. I'm not patronizing. I'm like,
Yes.
wow,
Yes.
you spent 2 decades trying to change yourself from to eat more foods, and you still won't do it. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if I'm internally hated and the whole world was pathologizing me and telling me I'm sick, I probably would try to adapt myself. She doesn't / can't. So I'm thinking, what the hell is she doing? In the best way, like, what is she expressing?
Mm-hmm.
I learned some various things, but one thing I learned from her is a part of her is saying, I'm going to say it in symbolic form. She didn't say it this way directly, but part of her saying, I will do only what I want. I won't do anything else. I have very specific boundaries and limits. I'd rather die than do what you tell me. I'm saying die because I asked her what would happen if I offered her one of the other foods. She said she would choke.
Mm.
I said if I pressed it on her more, she said I would not be able to breathe, literally. So on one side, that's dangerous. We have to take care of her.
Yeah.
But on the other side, what is she expressing that she doesn't know, that nobody knows? To say, I'd rather die than do what people tell me to do, than move 1 inch off of what's right for me. Now, I understand that's not the best way to express it. It's expressed indirectly because it's a suppressed thing show up that way. And this woman was like, oh my gosh, like no one has ever treated me like I'm an interesting, intelligent part of nature trying to express itself, its powers and intelligences and beauties as best I can. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you for actually listening to me and thinking I'm a magnificent creature trying to express themselves under very difficult circumstances, shaming and suppressive circumstances, and I'm finding a way.
Yeah. It's so important. Yeah. This is something that I come up, that I meet as well in the work that I do. As I mentioned, I also do therapy with folks, and like basically everyone who I've worked with has this sense that what they're going through is not okay.
Yeah.
This idea that something's wrong with me, which is why I'm coming to you and paying you to help me and fix me.
Yeah.
And basically every client is kind of thrown through a loop when I meet them in this way where I say, I don't think anything's wrong with you. And in fact, I think whatever is being expressed through you right now is probably very important and
Yeah.
essential to your becoming process. And that there's probably incredible gifts and valuable things
Mhm.
attempting to come through you during this difficult time. And
Mm.
it's the resistance and the turning away from and the shaming of yourself that's actually holding you back from just
Mhm.
being taken by this process and changed and transformed into whatever it is you're here to become.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the way you said that. And I'm appreciating your passion too, and I'm glad that you're in the world and that people are finding you and getting that kind of help.
Mm.
It, in some way, it seems so simple what we're saying. Like, pay attention to people, pay attention to nature, to snakes, to birds, to bees. They're doing something. It seems so simple in some way. And when we're saying it, it seems like, well, yeah, obviously. Why is it so radical? How did it come to be? Maybe it was always to take people's difficult experiences and think that their nature, like all of nature, is trying to express itself, and it would be helpful to know what's happening there. It's that sounds like such like almost like a philosophy statement, but it's a practical statement.
Yeah.
And when I'm up at night, I am up a lot. I don't sleep as much as I would love to. That it's rare. It's rare for me even now to wake up in the middle of the night and say, "What's going on?" Not why shouldn't I, how do I get back to sleep? Good. If I could do that some nights, what's going on? What is it like being up in the middle of the night? Do I love being around when the moon is around? Do I love the time when nobody else is around and have nothing to do other than scroll and find cool videos and have creative ideas? What the hell is going on that's so good in the night? And but it's very rare, and it's I sometimes think of it. I don't say it this way. It's de-souling. It's it's the opposite of soul making. With this habit pattern and paradigm of pathologizing people. What's wrong with you? How do I make that go away? You have a headache. How do I make your headache go away? I would love to do that. I don't want you to suffer. I have a stomach ache, I have a tumor. Let's make it go away. I have a depression. Let's make it go away. I get too angry. Let's make it go away. I'm nervous too much. Let's make it go away. It's come to believe. It's come into our system as a belief, a fundamental belief. Of course, I want these things to go away, and that's what healing is. Like, it's so, of course, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't you want my headache to go away? Actually, I would love it if your headache could go away. I'm also interested in your body, soma, expressing itself and wanting to know more about it also. Maybe that would also help it go away. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's this, okay, how do I simplify this big idea I'm having right now? I think there's something fundamental in humanity um, disconnecting from the wildness of the world.
Yeah.
So at the same time, disconnecting from complexity and paradox in a very real way, and turning toward, I mean, eventually, city states, literature, writing, linearity, right angles, and also theological orientations that have this sense that evolution is about the great chain of being, and we're at the end of it, we're the pinnacle of evolution, and taking this stance that we are this kind of immaculate being in some ways, made in God's image, and just all these components that have disconnected us from the complexity of earthly flows and forces. And
Wow.
instead, we've complicated things, but in this very linear, right angle, boxed kind of way. And so it's difficult for us, because of all this momentum, to be able to just be with complexity. And I think complexity is infused with mythology, it's infused with paradox,
Wow.
it's infused with contrast that's essential to vitality. And so anytime any of those things come through in a real way, there's this kind of like reactionary turning away to try and make it more simple, but in a complicated way. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's amazing what you're saying. I'm loving the language and you're bringing in words that I don't always use. The wildness, the linearity, and the right angles don't have curves in
Yeah.
them.
Let
And
me say one more
yeah,
thing, because
yeah,
this is what I
please.
want to connect it to. because there's this sense that I'm unhealthy, I'm in pain, there's symptoms arising, and like you were saying, I want to fix it, I want to be better. Totally understandable. But the way that our minds and our hearts and our bodies have been shaped through the momentum of civilization, basically, in all of its components,
Mm-hmm.
the sense that, okay, well, I'm at point A and point B is health, or like not
Right.
having symptoms. And so what's the linear path?
Yeah.
And I think what you speak to in your own words so beautifully, and what I'm trying to speak to in this kind of messy way right now,
Mm-hmm.
that there maybe there isn't even a point A and point B in the first place, and certainly it's not a linear track. So
Yeah.
we have this reactive response to find the linear path. We're already cutting ourselves off from the
Yeah.
mystery and the magic that's being naturally offered to us through
Right.
these symptoms, through this pain, through
Yeah.
this transformative process.
It makes me think what you're saying, like, what is the human project about? Is it about perfecting our health and our linear growth and our not aging and our being successful and whatever these things are? That what is the human project? What does it look like for your nature or mine or someone's or groups or collectives to unfold and flower? It may not look not only linear, it may be at odds with various things in the world that would make sense. Particularly if there's oppressive systems, it's going to be at odds. Um, some people come to me when we work on shame around trauma, and then they realize I have a big power, a yell in me, and they think maybe if I do that and I make that yelling, that will get released, and then I could have an easy life. And I'm thinking, you are a yeller, right?
Mm,
You should write poems. You should be on the steps of the governments. You should, I don't know, you should be making reels that say this isn't where the world should be. And that may be a big part of your life path. That's not only a wound that you're expressing so you're over it. The healing means you found your yell. Now yell I'm in love with somebody, and yell I'm not okay with this, and yell I need people, and yell don't mistreat me. And right, that's her expression. But again, the common paradigm is something like to reduce that. We're not, it doesn't support her to become that. If the world around her thought that was great, by the way, she wouldn't think she has to get rid of yelling at all. She would think, and we would think, if she could embody that and had enough solidarity around her, people would start collecting around her and saying, well, she's brilliant, she's amazing, she's powerful, I wish I could be like her, right? So the only thing that's getting in the way of that yelling, well, I'm calling it yelling, hollering, that's turning it into beauty and power and social change and intimacy and boundaries and self-care. The only thing that's getting away with that, taking that away, is shame. That's saying, wouldn't it be good for that to go away? So now you could come back out of your room and smile and say, well, I yelled and I'm not upset anymore. Hi, I'm back, everybody. I'm happy. And it's like, some people should walk around saying I'm happy, but they should also be able to say, fuck you, I'm unhappy, I hate what's happening in this part of the world, or I need you, or whatever, all the other expressions of uh, of being alive.
yeah.
I just wonder, like, how is it just that unpopular to say I want to know what this life becomes, and I know there's going to be various difficulties as my life becomes, as David becomes more David and not something that fits in, then he's going to have more bumps in various ways, inside and outside. That's human, that's nature. And then to wrestle with that, is it just so unpopular in some way? There's this incredible story in um, um, who wrote the Brothers Karamazov, Russian writer, is not named.
I don't
Say
know it.
again?
I don't know it.
Um,
Look it up.
it's
What is it? The brothers?
Karamazov, Karam. I can't believe I can't remember. Um, Russian writer.
Okay, it's Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Dostoevsky, right?
Dostoevsky.
And inside of that book, one of the characters writes a short story, It's called The Grand Inquisitor.
Love that.
And it's like a 16-page short story. Within the book is and and the story he says it's the story of Jesus coming back to whatever it was, these current days. And the story begins where Jesus is in jail. He's been put in jail by a dictator, the Grand Inquisitor, the dictator of this land. And then they have a conversation, right? And Jesus is saying, the dictator saying, I know who you are, by the way. I know you're this love, this principle of divine, and that I know all those things about you, but I'm going to jail you and put you to death. And he says, but if you know, why would you do that? And he says, people don't want you. They want, get off the cross and show us how cool you are. Give us real food. Don't give us some things and then we start starving. And show us your power, to fight the people. Do something that we can. And the dictator says, and I know you won't do that because you want people to be yearn for something else. We could call that the flowering of your actual life. And he says, very few people want that. So I hate to tell you, it's not about me. So I'm going to get rid of you. They want me, and I'm going to do those other things. And he's not trying to be selfish. He's saying, people actually want me. They don't want you. Wow. They want the authority that tells you what to do and provide certain things and doesn't really ask you to have to live the life that's yours and deal with all the loves and the hates and the violence that you experience and whatever you're going to go through. And I'm getting older, so I'm in the aging process, all those things. Yeah.
So how do you understand that? How does that land for you personally?
I think I don't even want to say out loud, but I think it's very rare. I think it's like people think, oh, everybody wants to grow. I don't think that's true. I think it's, if I were to say my real thought, I think it's about 5% of the people. I think most people want a relief from their difficulties. We all want relief and would make the compromises necessary to do that and would feel like it's good for them to do that and that would be a good life. And if I met that person, I would say, do get that. Mm-hmm. I would say that's your path and make it be in denial about how the various different forces and insulate yourself from the world where in different ways and develop belief systems that hold you, that build up your self-worth independent of I wouldn't be able to say it that way, that build up your self-worth and make you feel safer, make you feel saved or safer or things like that and worthy, and find those things and don't question the other things and do whatever you're going to do with that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we need a lot of people to be different, but I think it's not a people in general, the mainstream or the large majority of people don't really want. I guess I'm with that Grand Inquisitor, and people don't want it. They don't want to find the fact that they're yelling inside of themselves and that they may have to live a life where they bring that voice in, and that's going to create a lot of difficulties and beauty and power and incredibleness and people who will not like them and hate them. They don't want that whole life. Yeah.
Is it like a conservation of energy or self? Like I'm getting a sense that when you say it like that, it's like people don't want to die. People don't die unto themselves. That there's this strong kind of trying to hold things together, but the paradox of that is that you're actually just kind of holding a rigid structure that doesn't allow natural ebbs and flows and dissolution and coming back together. That is the natural process of like evolutionary growth and transformation.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We get held by fundamentalisms, not just fundamentalist religion. For me, money was part of my fundamentalisms. This is what makes me good. This is what makes me secure. This is what makes me worthy as a person, as a man, as a partner. This is what makes me successful. So that's a kind of a fundamentalism. It's such a strong belief. So I think that's the way, that's the doorway. If I'm insecure, that's the doorway. If I don't feel good about myself as a person, that's the doorway. If I don't feel good about my manhood, that's the doorway, right? So it's a kind of a religion. So there's lots of things that become those structures, those fundamental structures that we live in. Capitalism is one of those. It says you can get there by money, right? So you kind of go, okay. And then, isn't that true? It seems true. I have this nice house, right? It seems so blatantly true if you're not going to inquire of the deeper things that move you. So those fundamentalisms give us a certain safety. They save us in certain ways. I know that's a word that's provocative, but they save me from feeling worried. They save me from the insecurity of growing up poor, which I did. It saves me from, all kinds of different things. So in some way, I'll hold on to that. And if you try to take it from me, I'm not going to let go of that so easily, unless I have other structures that can hold me when I start shaking, when my identity, when I die, when my identity starts shaking. I'm going to need something that holds me, a belief system, solidarity, a way of loving myself, a therapist, a group of people, a lover, something that helps say it's okay to shake and break apart your identity, to die and so to grow, I think Curtis said. So for that to happen, but that's not a desired thing. And there's not a lot of other structures that are provided. Maybe some cultures, maybe tribal cultures, are more likely to have ritual and things like that. In my world, there's not any structures other than have found people who know those things to be around me. But there's not a lot of structures to say, shake, fall apart, go into the earth and see what comes out. But what about all the things? What about my marriage? What about my income? What about my business, which I took all these years? Yeah, that might shake apart. No.
Yeah.
What about my youth? I write, I'm getting older, so I have body symptoms. I have, one of them is my prostate. Men have prostates that grow, and the prostate grows, it's around the urethra. So as it grows, it tightens around the urethra, and that means the urine flow is less. Right. So that happens. So if I write, so that's an aging issue for all men have that prostate growth, and then different ages, sometimes that happens. And it wasn't as big a thing when men didn't live past 50 and 60, but because it grows very, very slowly.
Yeah.
So then I write on the internet, what can I do about prostate? I wonder if there's information about that. And then and then if I go onto Instagram, every other damn thing is going to be an ad for this. Right? It's like, we're not going to talk to you about being a man. We're not going to talk about manhood. We're not going to talk about your aging process. We're not going to talk about your moving towards your dying time and your body is changing. What kind of eldership do you have to offer? How will you flower? How will you slow down? How will you express these things that live inside of you? What will your flow look like in life? Nothing is going to say any of those things I just said. They're all going to be, here's a supplement, here's an answer, here's an exercise, mostly supplements. And there's going to be a zillion of them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a bombardment, a constant bombardment of that. And just because I asked one question, anyway, you get the idea. So aging itself, forget it.
Yeah.
Don't age. That's for sure, because
and
I'm not having a lot of choice about that, apparently.
And that's such a huge conversation. Just the shame around aging. Did you ever read? Do you know Stephen Jenkinson?
A little bit.
Okay, he wrote an amazing book called "Come of Age: The Case for Eldership in a Time of Trouble."
I don't know the book.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
highly
look it up.
recommend it, David. Yeah, but yeah, so it's called "Come of Age," Stephen Jenkinson. But anyway, I don't know if I want to go on that tangent, because I was just thinking about how that is that momentum I was speaking to before. This pace of the technocratic, mechanistic, industrial machine that we're all kind of cogs in to some degree. It's just its pace and its momentum is so immense that it takes a lot of concerted effort and pain to stop and if not stop, at least just slow down, be like, what is actually happening underneath the surface here? So I hear you when you say, I don't know if people even want to know. And I'm just wondering, is it that people just feel at a deep visceral level like they can't, and so that it's not even an option on the table?
Yeah, it's not even an option on the table. Yeah. First of all, that life force that's in the person that doesn't want to go along with that defended world, it still expresses itself. It expresses itself in symptoms. People get physical health issues. That's not the only reason people get sick. There's all kinds of reasons about what happens in the world and what people are in. But physical symptoms happen, addictive patterns happen, relationship patterns happen, tiredness happens, chronic illness happens, depressions happen, outrages happen, violence happens. So all those energies, people will only eat 5 foods, right? People will still express those things. Or I'll treat my children in a certain way consistent with my desire to control and show my force. So people still express those different things. They just come out in very difficult and violent and painful ways. But then we have a world that goes along with that, right? Well, you got a headache, let's fix the headache. You're depressed, let's fix the depression. We're not saying, I wonder if this depression means I don't want to be doing what I'm doing, living how I'm living. I want to change. I want to die, as you would say, a little bit and let go. And people are not going to say maybe your depression is a letting go. Go ahead. They're saying anti-depress it, right?
Yeah.
Anti-anger it, regulate it, fix it,
Which
change it.
Which right there, it's like antidepressants, like what you are is not okay. Just right there. What you are is not okay. You have to be the exact opposite of what you are to be okay.
Incredible.
Anti your expression. I'm sure you've read Thomas More to some degree. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Love Thomas More. And he wrote the book Care of the Soul.
Yeah.
And there he talks about depression in a very fascinating way. I'm not going to do it justice, but I think it's important to try a little bit here. He talks about depression as being a coagulation of self. That the heaviness that one experiences in depression is often seen as a symptom that we need to rid ourselves of. You need to be light on your feet. There needs to be a lightness of being. You need to seek happiness. You need to seek joy. That's
full of energy, coffee culture,
And he talks about how in ancient Greece, I'm forgetting which god it was now, but there was a god that is also associated with a planet, maybe it's Saturn or something, but that this god was also associated with depression, and he was also associated with alchemy. And that alchemy has to do with like coagulation that eventually leads to distillation and like a purification process. And so he just relates these things and talks about how maybe a depressive moment in your life, or if it's a series of moments, which is probably happening because of an aversion, right? But if there's a depressive moment, maybe this heaviness is an essential part of the process. You need to be heavy, and you need to sink down into yourself, and you need to gather all these disparate components and just come back to the nucleus in order for this kind of alchemy to occur, for a radical change to happen.
I love that. But then I would say from this side, no, I got work. I decided to do a class tomorrow, and you don't know, the place I'm living in California is really expensive. And then if I don't do that, and then my partner who's trying to finish her doctorate, she's counting on me to do. So now what would you say back to me? Like, I have all my reasons, right? And I can't afford, and I have to take care of my kids, so I can't really have time to get depressed. What do you say back to me then?
That's a really good point. Yeah. I mean,
it's a conversation. I'm not trying to win an argument. I'm just like,
I would inquire into what are these priorities, and where are they coming from? I mean, there's the things you mentioned, like the kids and the work, like those, absolutely essential, right? But what are the other things? Like, I know that so many folks are turning to the television at night for hours sometimes, right?
I've done it.
Yeah, me too, man. And I have a client that's kind of struggling with that, like turning to the television to unwind, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Absolutely. Sometimes you can turn to a good, especially if it's a good story, and it helps you unwind, and you can be taken on a journey. And though, if that's the thing that happens every night, you just have to be honest with yourself that you're using precious moments of your life, and you're giving it over to some other thing that isn't really you. And
Yeah.
so I would just inquire, what are the priorities? If you're prioritizing television, or if you're prioritizing these other things that are taking you outside of yourself, then you have to be honest. And what would
Right.
happen if you took 2 or 3 nights out of the week to just go sit quietly and write and
Right.
just be with
Then
depression?
this part of me would say, I couldn't do it. I would freak out. I would fall apart.
Yeah,
This person, most of these people wouldn't say it like this, but I'll be direct, as if they could be direct. I'd say, you don't know how much I depend on that. You don't know how much I'm held together by some of these patterns which don't look good. If I let go of those, I don't know that I exist even. The things that come up for me,
yeah,
the background problems that I haven't dealt with, the traumas that live in my body and bones, they're going to rise up. I'll get swallowed up. I
yeah,
don't think people would say that, but I think I
yeah.
think that would be, if they could speak, many people would say something like that.
So then I would explore, what would it be like to be swallowed up?
That would be a great question. Yeah.
What would it be like? This is the kind of thing that I keep coming back to. What would it be like to just like give yourself over to what's naturally
Yeah.
expressing?
Yeah. I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you, by the way. You know that I'm
I
bringing up.
know, I know, I
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
love
I'm telling, I would do this. I would do exactly that. I would say, can we get even 2, 3 minutes to explore what these experiences are like? And then we can stop because it's too much for you, but can we do a little bit of that,
Also,
little
Dave,
taste?
yeah, and
Yeah.
also, so okay, so someone's depressed, right? And they fear that if they really give themselves over to it, how will they have to go to work. They have to show up, they have coworkers that they have to have
Right.
conversations around the water, a bottle with or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's and I think this is where shame comes in. There's this fear and this shame that I'm not okay. Like, if I show up like that, I'm going to be judged. I'm not going to be welcomed. I'm not going to be, basically, I'm not going to be acceptable. And my
Yeah.
challenge is, and I know this is kind of radical, but I've seen it in my own life. My challenge is, show up depressed.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if you just
Right.
showed up sad, depressed,
Yeah.
and if someone says something, hey, you okay? No, not actually. This is how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. It's
And
gorgeous.
I don't need you to do anything about it, but I also don't want to hide it.
Yeah. That would
Then
be
all
a
of a sudden,
great.
yeah, then all of a sudden you're inviting them into real fucking rooted, intimate reality. And then what happens from there?
Intimacy, yeah, and connection and community, and a lot of the things that we deeply need. Yeah, letting go, loosening the grip on whatever our survival strategies, our defense systems, our coping mechanisms, whatever those things are called, are ways of expressing the things that live inside of us indirectly for whatever reason. Um, Loosening those ropes, those right angles, you would say,
Yeah,
getting us out of there, allowing certain things to loosen, to flow, to crumble even. I
yeah,
think that's the direction. If I could help the world, I would go in that direction. I wouldn't try to put it together, find the right leaders, etc. I would say, can we fall apart a little bit? Hold it as much as we can without going so far that it's not, that people can't handle it and it'll just cause destruction. But
yeah. Yeah, Dugald Hine, he wrote a book, I think it's called At Work in the Ruins. And he speaks to, I've said it so many times now, I don't know if this is me kind of putting words in his mouth,
right.
but
This me is them. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
That's a
He
good
speaks
moment.
to
It's you now,
yeah, but he
Mhm.
speaks to this idea of making beautiful ruins.
Nice.
And this is I think a radically wondrous idea, and it's what you're speaking to. I agree. By the way, I think it's happening anyway, right? Things are collapsing,
Yeah.
and
Things are
and earth
collapsing.
and earth is in a essential death and renewal process.
Yeah.
And so rather than fight against that by trying to hold ourselves together in this rigid way, what would
Yeah.
happen if we went, okay, things are falling apart, how do we make it beautiful?
Yeah. Making it
How do we,
beautiful. That would be, I love that. Making it beautiful. That would be we're very aligned. That would be the word I would use.
Mhm.
Make things beautiful. And then I have to add that, and knowing that to some extent there'll be a limits on what some people or groups could do, not only because they're bad, but because that's that's the nature, the limit of their nature.
Yeah.
Um, it's like that falling apart would not lead to, at least in any direct way, it could lead to an individual dying or taking their life, or it because I've seen those kinds of things. Like it's like this is as far as I can go
Yeah.
without. And then sometimes people something takes them down. I've seen people where I've said you have to don't push so hard because I thought they would literally die, and I
Yeah.
could sense that. I've seen some people who thought they could heal. I'm thinking of a man I worked with who was uh, had an addictive process with alcohol, and it was messing up his life big time, messed up relationships, messed up his schooling, messed up bank accounts, and various different lost jobs and stuff like that. And he came to me and said, "Can you help me with stop the alcohol?" And I listened to him for about 20 minutes, and I said, "Not in short order."
Yeah.
He said, "Why?" I said, "You're not on the ground." And I said, "And I wish not that everybody has to be on the ground." I said, "But you're on your way down, and I don't." I said, "I can help you fall more gently and help you deal with that." I said, "I don't think anything I'm going to do is going to stop you from leaving here and going to drink." I said, he's already tried a lot of things, and I'm like, can you give me the magic bullet that's going to stop me?" And I'm like, I'm listening to that person. No way.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks a lot. And he left, but he came back like a year later, and he said he tried a bunch of different things. He ended up collapsing. Things got worse and worse and worse. And now he was like, now it's time. So it's like, would it be good if he could have done that earlier? Yes. Was it possible? I don't think it was. I don't think he was just limited and not strong and disciplined and courageous enough. I think that part of nature says we're not done
Yeah.
crumbling. And I wish it was less difficult on him and all the relationships around him. It's not victimless, um, what was happening, but as a
Yeah.
lot of things aren't. Um,
Yeah, so I think at this time for folks like you and I, it's so important to recognize that we're, to some degree, whatever we feel the capacity for in any given day, I guess, but there's this orientation to companioning people through the underworld
yeah,
rather than
beautiful.
rather than staying in the upper world, so to say, and being
Yeah,
like, hey, come up here, you know,
yeah.
that
Let me get you out of there.
let me
Here's
get
my
you
rope. You can climb out of your hole and you can feel better for just a
exactly.
moment or two. And
So I had a client that came to me last summer, and she got connected to me because she was suicidal and going through, she had like cold turkeyed psych meds,
mm,
and it had thrown her into akathisia and all these other symptoms, and she was incredibly suicidal, through her own words. And when she came to me, one of the first things I said was, I'm not going to stop you. Like basically what you said, I'm not going to stop you from killing yourself. And
yeah,
I don't think I have the power to do that. And I don't see that as my work. And
mm,
I actually don't even strongly have an opinion of whether
mm,
taking your life or not is right or wrong. I
yeah,
don't know. But what I do know is I'm willing to descend with you. I'm willing to descend into the mystery. That's all I
mhm,
know.
yeah,
And so if you need a companion to descend into the mystery, then
mm,
let's do this. And we ended up working together for like, I don't know,
beautiful,
8 months or something. And now she's great. We're done together as
beautiful,
she's doing great. And she came through this, and dude, for months, David, she was saying, I still want to kill myself. I'm never going to get better, all these things. And I would just always just say, hey, just keep being in the darkness. You're gaining
yeah,
a second sight, Francis Weller calls it. You're gaining a
hmm,
second sight. There's a new perception being forged, and that's
mm.
all you can ask of right now.
Good work, brother. Good work.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
but to
Yeah,
me, thank you. I appreciate that, means a lot coming from you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the point of why I bring it up, and it's connected to what you're sharing, is, and it's this thread it's been going through,
yeah.
and really it's connected to shame and this
Oh,
idea,
definitely.
like it's whatever's happening for you is happening for you, and it's natural to some degree, and
Mm,
the resistance and the shame that you pile on top of it is making it far worse than it needs to be.
yeah,
And if you're going to come into wholeness, and if you want to see the world come into wholeness too, you just, this unity you're seeking really just has to do with like honoring what's naturally here and being curious, like authentically curious and caretaking in the process. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing. I wanted to ask you about that, caretaking specifically in your work, but also what you're recognizing in people's healing journeys. What does it mean to caretake?
Hmm. I mean, are you thinking of, some people use that as more of a putting myself away? People call that codependence, which I don't love the term, but some people use that word. I'm not sure if that's how you're referring to it. I'm a caretaker. That means I'm trying to mend and fix and make sure and put my
Right.
own needs away. Is that what you're thinking? Or
I think that's how it's kind of often thought of.
yeah,
Thinking more of like, what does it mean to really give care? Like
got you.
to be in a helping role, what
Yeah,
does it mean to truly be helpful?
yeah,
Because I think that it's incredibly distorted, and
yeah,
it starts with the distortion within ourselves of when we try to help ourselves, we try to care for ourselves,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, for me, it's all everything. It's all has to do with shame, because shame is a way of looking at somebody to think, what's the matter with you? You don't belong. Something's wrong with you. So for me, the care comes from, I'm willing to, I call witness. That means very much what you're saying. I want to know what you're experiencing. What's it like being you? Not your opinions and ideas about you. What's it like being you? What's it like being depressed? Is, like you said, is it a heavy weight, or is it a fury that you're being held down and is exhausting you? What's your headache like? Is it a sharp pain, or is it an explosiveness, or is it a migraine that makes you dizzy? And what's your anger like? Is it a fist? Is it a scream? Is it an explosion? So for me, the care is, I want to get to know you, and that means the intimacy of your experience, not your theories or thoughts. It makes me think about addictions, because I've done a lot of addiction work, and I ask things that people say they've never been asked before, which is so fundamentally what we're talking about. What's it like? Somebody says, I wants to stop smoking cigarettes, and I say, what's it like smoking a cigarette? They're like, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm self-medicating. I'm like, that's an idea. That's not what it's like. That's a theory. I call that shaming. It's, what's it like? And people could, I worked with a person who smoked 2 packs a day for 20 years and didn't know. And no, nobody knows. I gave them a pen. They put this pen in your mouth, make believe it's a cigarette, and show me what you do, and show me what it's like, and then what happens for you when you do that. So, though that seems so obvious to me.
Yeah.
I worked with a woman who didn't leave her house for more than a decade, and people were trying to help her leave her house. That was the therapeutic support. And I said, what's it like being home?
Yeah.
She's like weeping. She says, I said, why are you weeping? She says, no one has asked me. I'm like, what's so good about being in the house? Like, not like, how do we get you out? Like the suicide is saying.
Yeah.
What's so good about being home? It's safe. What's it like to feel safe? What are you talking about? Then we're only 5 minutes in, and it's already like way beyond anything she's done, because for good reasons, people are thinking, oh my gosh, she's locked in and she's not having a free life, and let me help have a free life. The free life that I think would be good, which is to be able to go out to whatever, for me, the beach, and somebody else is going to be to go to the mall, whatever they do. But I'm not thinking her free life might be to be home and not feel bad about it, which it turned out to be largely the truth, right? So it's like, what animal's free life do you want? Do you want the bear's life while it's hibernating, or do you want the leopard's life when it's running? It's like, those are very different free lives, but that's so fundamental. So for me, the care is, yeah, very much what we're saying. I mean, I call that unshaming. What's it like being you, and then honoring of the intelligence that lives in you is the same intelligence that lives in the bees, how it works together with the flowers, and then broccoli grows. So I'm laughing, but you know what I mean. These intelligences are inside of us, and then woven into the way we fit into the world. And so those depressions are inside the person, but they're woven into how they will do their job, just like the bees or the bats that shit and produce whatever, and the worms, and every creature. There's a wovenness, divine intelligence into how all that works into nature. So if you start seeing that, witnessing a person saying, I'm caring about who you really are, what your real experiences are, how they flower and unfold, if we give them enough support, then their connection in the web of life starts appearing. And that's a really, it's making me think of Mary Oliver, but I can't remember the details of the poem, The Wild Geese, but I don't know if you know that poem.
Yeah.
Something about that. What are you going to do with your one wild life? You're like the wild geese. You're woven into nature, just the way. Yeah.
You know what, David? I'll go. I'll read it and record it, and I'll tag it onto the end of our conversation.
Okay.
People,
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're at the end here, and
Oh
I
yeah.
just so much resonance, man, with everything you said. Just on that last piece you brought in, just so much agreement, and really appreciate this conversation. And I have one more question for you, if you feel like you have the time and capacity.
Yeah, let's take a couple of minutes and then we'll close up.
Okay. And maybe it's not even a question, but more, I'd like to invite you to, if it feels resonant for you, to invite the listeners into some kind of inquiry, some kind of invitation to think about, to digest in relation to the scenario that's happening on the so-called world stage, geopolitics right now. What's an invitation or inquiry that folks can take forward into their days and just chew on and digest over time?
That's a big question. In terms of the world and the politics is so heavy that, but it's important because the politics, the geopolitics, the wars, the war itself is a polarized state, right? You want to kill me, I want to kill you. But the way we witness or care about the war tends to be also a polarized war, right? I'm not in Ukraine and you're not in Russia at the moment. I'm not in Israel, you're not in Iran at the moment. But if we talk about it, in the average person talks about it, we go to war. You are an evil or an idiot or stupid, and I have to crush your opinion. You have to crush mine. I understand that. That's part of how those things go. But it'd be really helpful if some people, some small percentage of people, aren't doing that, are not only on one side. Being on a side is good, is fine, but only on a side means you don't exist. Your humanity, you don't exist. It's not real. It's really mothers in this case who are walking their kids to school from bomb shelters, and real Gazan children who are missing limbs. That anyway, all the details. I don't want to trigger everybody, but I'm just so. But for the witnesses, not saying for the people inside, but for the witnesses like us, the caretakers, we need some people who can hold those difficulties the way you're holding depression and say, whoa, that's war. How do we hold that? How do we care for that? Is there anything that can come out of that other than more death and more destruction and pain and suffering of life? So that reflection, what do we do about that? Can we hold that? That's really difficult. And for people who haven't developed their own voice strongly enough, they won't be able to do that. Then you take a side. And the good thing about taking a side is I get to say, I'm right and I know something. And if I haven't done that enough in my life, I'm going to take a side. But if I've done a little bit of that, I might have room to say, I really have a strong opinion. And this is an event that needs something. Then what do you do? If it's possible to feel into what it's like to be one of those people, even the worst ones, I'm a person who is willing to take a child's life because I'm angry and scared and feel that in ourselves. I'm willing to injure people when I'm backed into a corner or feel that. That kind of empathy would be really good, but it's very, very rare. It's a practice I take. I try to think, what is it like to be a Gazan child? What's it like to be a military person who's dropping that bomb or bulldozing a thing? And not just, where do I bulldoze things? I bulldoze over myself. I also limping along sometimes and hurt by the world. So a little bit of getting to know that, those projections, we can call them, but it's not only, they're real people and real things. They're real bulldozers and real children. Um, Getting to connect with that a little bit maybe makes it a little bit more likely that these violences are going to unfold in some way other than where somebody asked, it makes me think about your suicide thing, and somebody asked um, Jung, if things are meaningful, why war? And he said, war kills warriors. Right? You go to war, warriors. I don't mean like a spiritual war. I mean, you go there and that's what it literally does, right? You go to war and people get killed. We should kill, and people shouldn't have a warrior spirit, and it's good that people are being killed. And he said, the warrior spirit or archetype, we could call it, is limited. It can only go so far. It's not the closest thing to the divine. The child is. And he said, and the warrior, we're talking about that crumbling and that letting go that we were talking about before, that decomposition. He said, the warrior meets their end by incapacity. I can't do it. I'm not strong enough, able enough. This is too big. And he said, and the incapacity takes you to the child. And the child has new ideas and is closer to the divine. Anyway, just going off a little bit, but I'm just thinking about the beauty of tying those things together, connecting with some of these things, connecting to our powerlessness about that, etc. Maybe something grows. At least my hope would be that the child leads the way generally, meaning our new ideas, our natural connection with our feelings, our gifts, which I think live in the child, that when we're born, I think we have our gifts. So I think we need more of that. Fewer adults who have put it all together and think they know everything. They don't seem, because if they were help, we'd having war for a long time now, right? That's not going to help. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question very well, but I'm kind of wandered into the space with you a bit.
Perfectly, David.
Yeah. What a
Man,
pleasure connecting with you, and what a beautiful human being you are, and
oh,
brilliant. And I love your intelligence and your bright light and your passion for the things you're doing and that you study and that you read and I don't know, I'm just like, oh, that's a really great person on the planet. So I'm really glad to meet you. Yeah.
thanks. That means so much coming from you, because I feel the same way. I think I said it before we got on the recording. I've been following you for some years now, and just like, just so resonant, and I can feel your heart and your care, and I'm so grateful that you're doing what you do and that you're having the impact that you have, that folks can feel that they're being drawn into the gravity that you're naturally emanating, and that surely they're meeting parts of themselves that are essential, and that they're moving out into the world from that orbit in good, beautiful ways. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
As promised, a poem by Mary Oliver titled Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.